Alright, hey guys, so the spoilers and previews for the next set were just released tonight, so we're going to go over that real quick and give, I guess by we I mean me, I'm going to go over that and give my thoughts on it, and we'll see what's going on. First, I'll real quick go through, they released some of the images for the next set. So they released the booster box. It looks like our standard booster box, has the cool little logo and things, what the booster packs will look like. Looks like Milliam's got some stuff going on there. The promo playmat is gonna, if you look at it right here, I assume somewhere on the screen, it looks pretty cool. It adds sort of a storybook, and you have the light side and dark side and some sort of new character. I assume will be a new J ruler in the center. It looks really cool. Oscar really likes it, so we'll see how that is. And I'm really excited for they announced that they're gonna have this promo for Heavenly Gust, which looks pretty awesome. I'm definitely gonna be trying to get a playset of those, so pretty excited about that. So moving on to the spoilers, we'll start with the ruler. The ruler is Book of Light, so it's a pure mono yellow ruler. It's a book. It has a Judgment for X, Energize. As long as you have that ruler, you can't play cards with the attribute Will of Despair inside of your deck at all. You can only play normal cards, obviously, or cards with Will of Hope attribute. And those Will of Hope cards you can play with any type of will you want. I don't know if attribute's the right word, but anyways, so it's pretty interesting. So it's similar to Fairy Tales. A lot of times with Grimm and Milliam, you can play the cost of Fairy Tales with Yellow Will. You can now do Will of Hope with anything, really. It's Judgment. It becomes Re-Earth New World Fairy Tale, so that's a Fairy Tale J ruler. It has no attack or defense, and it cannot be destroyed, so you can't just straight Black Moonbeam it if you want. You can Final Forfeit it and then Black Moonbeam it, but that's about it. When it comes in, whatever X cost you paid to bring it in, you are able to grab a Will of Hope Resonator from outside the game and put it into your field. So if you paid 5, you can grab a 5 cost Will of Hope Resonator that's in your side deck and just throw it into the field. As soon as that Resonator leaves your field for a non-field zone, whether that's the graveyard or removed from game, or I guess even shuffled back into your deck somehow or anything like that, your ruler, J ruler, flips back to its ruler side, so you can keep that cycle going back and forth. So that'll be pretty interesting to see what people do with that. I think it's kind of a cool mechanic, and it's really pretty art too. The first Resonator is Milliam, Successor of the Future. Pretty excited about that. I love Milliam. He's a 3-cost 8/8 human. He obviously Will of Hope. Other Resonators you have with Will of Hope gain plus 200, plus 200, and Barrier. So that'll be really useful, especially once you see what these other Resonators do. And he also, you'll see this new ability called Seal. So Seal is this ability Force of Will has introduced that whatever number it shows next to Seal, once you gain that many magic stones, it unlocks the seal. I forget the exact terminology they use, but it unlocks it, and you get whatever ability is under that. So in his case, Barrier. So if he comes into your field and you already have 5 stones out, he automatically has Barrier. Or he'll gain it as soon as you get 5 stones, and it'll unlock that ability. So that's pretty cool. The next one was Zero the Keen's Blade. So she's a 2-cost 6/6 with Quick Cast, which is pretty awesome. We haven't seen that many Quick Casts, and I guess Zero has actually been a Quick Cast Resonator before, back in Grim Cluster, I believe it was. So it's cool to have that coming back. She's also Will of Hope, and when she's on the field, your opponent cannot draw more than 1 card per turn. So that's going to be really important, because most decks right now revolve around card drawing with Tama or the Bird of Ataraxia, different things like that. So being able to stifle your opponent so they don't get that ability anymore, and they have to just do with whatever they draw while you keep drawing whatever you want, is I think will be pretty important later down the road. She also has the ability of Resonators you control cannot be returned to their owner's hands. So since she has Quick Cast, you could play it in response to a hook targeting your Resonators, I'd assume, and stop that. And plus just passively stop hook from targeting your Resonators, which would be great if in a mono yellow deck possibly you completely shut down hook. Not that hook has been really big problem recently, but it's, you know, I'm sure he's pretty big at locals still. Okay, next is Strange Miracle. So this is a 1-cost chant. Doesn't have Quick Cast, keep in mind, but it is Ancient Magic, so that's kind of cool. You have a yellow Ancient Magic again. So her ability is you cannot be targeted by spells or abilities until end of turn, and you draw a card. So it's a good just 1 cost, draw a card. The not being targeted by spells or abilities isn't that great since she's not a quick cast, so it's just a temporary thing and you can't do it in response to something. So, but, and she also has Seal of 7. So once again, once you get 7 stones, it unlocks this ability, which is J resonators you control cannot be destroyed until end of turn. So that'll be great. That's sort of a good late game, and if you're going in for the kill or holding up your last defense perhaps, and so you want to swing in and not have your resonators die, different things like that. Next one is Pandora, Queen of Miracles. She's a 2-cost 4/7 resonator. Once again, Will of Hope. She has the ability of whenever a J resonator you control blocks, it gains a 100/100 counter on it. It's kind of cool, I guess. But her main ability is she releases the seal abilities of light cards and spells you control. So that seal ability we've been talking about, where you need a certain number of stones to unlock it, no matter the cost on it, it's automatically unlocked. So that 1 cost chant we just talked about with Seal of 7, you automatically get that seal move now. So she's going to be really important, I think, in this deck. So what you do is you run her, and especially Million would be the 2 main cards you run, so that she gains barrier, he gains barrier because she's unlocking his barrier. And so you have a bunch of really invulnerable cards and they're able to unlock the seals of all their special abilities. Next is a Sacred Record of Fairy Tales. So this is a 1-cost chant, and it's just basically a tool for Will of Hope decks. It's the 1 cost. You look at the top 4 cards of your deck, grab a Will of Hope card from among them, and put it into your hand, and put the rest at the bottom of your deck. So it's just a good tool. One thing the Force of Will article pointed out is that ability does not involve you actually drawing a card. So if you're playing a mirror match against someone and you're restricted from drawing more than 1 card per turn, that does not affect cards like this. It's not technically drawing a card. So something to keep in mind when you're playing. And lastly is Riola's Volition. So she's a 3-cost quick cast chant. I really like this one. So the ability is she's 3-cost quick cast, and target J resonator gains +8/+8 until end of turn, and barrier and flying. So that's pretty good on its own. The 3 cost is a little bit high, but still I think that's a pretty good ability. However, if she targets a resonator with the Will of Hope attribute, you get to pay 1 light and 1 void less. So she becomes a 1 light will, 800/800 flying barrier buff for your Will of Hope resonators. So that is going to be, I think, not only, it's going to be a card you run 4 of in Will of Hope's decks by just default. It's like, I think the article said this actually, it's like Dreams of Flight, except better. So, and more consistent. So that's a really cool and strong card. I'm really excited to see what other cards will be supporting this, other type of Will of Hope cards. And I'm really curious what Will of Despair will be. I was talking to Oscar about this, if it's going to be sort of what is the word, antecedent or antithesis, I forget. Oscar went to college, but it's going to be sort of the opposite. So instead of just giving something 800/800 barrier and flying, it would give something, say, 1200/1200 with Will of Despair, 1200/1200 first strike, and some other sort of brute force move, and then the resonator gets destroyed at end turn, similar to Blood of Mikage, something sort of more brutal like that. There might be some sort of dual, there might be some sort of like cards that are run opposite to these Will of Hope cards, and I assume they'll all have that seal ability as well, and it'll be the dark side of that book that we saw in the playmat earlier as well. So we saw the light side, which is the light side of this J ruler on the playmat. So now we got to see what the dark side is. And we got to see if maybe that middle will be a separate third J ruler on its own. So we'd have light, dark, and he looks like fire. So that would also raise the question of what the green and water decks are. If they're not books, how are they going to fight against books if they're not a book? That's a very important question. And will we ever see Void again, a Void ruler? Probably not, but might see a Void resonator. So I'm pretty excited based on what we've seen so far. It's a cool, simple mechanic. It's not as complicated as other mechanics tend to be. The seal mechanic, that is. So we'll see how this goes. As far as the special magic stones, so there's 2 coming out, I believe. I think they'll probably have something to do with Will of Hope and Will of Despair, because those are the 2 new sort of subtypes. And there's, as far as we know, there's 2 of them. So it makes sense if they both got magic stones to support them. I don't know if it'd be something that buffs maybe Will of Hope and Will of Despair, or maybe something to do with the seal abilities of those cards, but I'd be pretty interested to find out what those are. But I think they might have something to do with this new subtext we have. So yeah, if you like this video and sort of our quick thoughts, we just saw the spoilers like 10 minutes ago. But as you can see on our channel, we have games. We're going to be doing Force of Will news that will come out next week as we get more updates. So next week will probably be a big one because we have today's spoilers and I believe spoilers on Sunday. So there's going to be a lot of questions for Jordan. We'll probably get a lot of answers. So I'm pretty excited about that. And also stay tuned for our giveaway coming up. Subscribe to find out.